overwhelms and satisfies my soul. And I never ever have to be afraid, 'cause one thing remains, one thing remains. Love never fails, never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love, love, love. Oh, yeah. Your love, your love never fails.
Your love never gives up on me.
Is up, no, never fails. Never fails on me, no. Never fails on me, no. Never fails on me, no. Yeah. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails, never gives up, never runs out on me. Never, never, never runs out. Never, never ever runs out on me. Never ever, never ever, never ever, never ever.
Never ever gives up
No,
on me.
no, no.
Hallelujah. Ooh, 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 ooh.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Reverend John Riley, and I have the joy of serving as your senior minister, and it's wonderful to welcome you to our Sunday celebration service. Thank you to everyone who's with us here in the sanctuary, and for those who are churching at home, thank you for being online, live, or during the week. You are in our hearts and in our prayers. If you're new to Unity, what we want you to know is that Unity is a global spiritual community welcoming people from all walks of life. People who are seeking a deeper experience of spirit, a greater sense of health, wholeness, and abundance. People looking for spiritual growth, transformation, and to do life better. We teach positive, practical spiritual principles that you can apply in your life every day to help you live a more joyful and abundant life. We're so blessed this morning to have with us. Today is a special service. So this is our annual Q&A service. If you have a spiritual question that you would like our esteemed panel to answer, you can start thinking about that, and we'll give you some more time, because during the talk we're going to be answering questions. And we're so blessed to have with us Rusty Gaillard as our platform leader. Joe Angelis will be joining us on the platform. Margaret LeDuc is our soloist. Ron E. Beck is on drums. And Russell E. Norman is on piano. And so we will begin our service with our opening song. I'll invite you all to stand as Margot leads us.
All right, here we go. I'm in the right place at the right time, and I'm just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time, and I'm just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time, and I'm just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time, and I'm just where I'm supposed to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. getting the message loud and clear. My song is welcome here. Yeah. Good morning. All right, here we go. Sing it with me now. The greatest thing in all my life is knowing you. The greatest thing in all my life is knowing you. I want to know you more. I want to know you more. The greatest thing in all my life is knowing you. The greatest thing in all my life is loving you. The greatest thing in all my life is loving you. I want to love you more, love you more. The greatest thing in all my life is loving you. The greatest thing in all my life is serving you. The greatest thing in all my life is serving you. I want to serve you more, serve you more. The greatest thing in all my life is serving you.
Thank you. Please be seated. Welcome. Good morning. Nice to see you all. Nice to connect with you all here. As you know, Unity is part of a worldwide movement that teaches us 5 core principles that guide us in our spiritual path. The first principle is God is, that there is one power and one presence active in the universe, and that is God, the good omnipotent. The second principle is I am. That power is not out there somewhere. It is right here inside of each one of us. And it is because God is the substance and intelligence innate in each and every one of us and in all of creation. The third principle is the law of mind action, that we have the ability to shape the world through our thinking because thoughts in mind produce after their kind. The fourth principle is the practice of meditation and prayer. Because when we connect with this creative, constructive power of God inside us every day, it allows it to work through and as us. And finally, the fifth principle is that of daily practice. Because as we practice these principles each and every day, we express more and more of the divine inside of us. And the best part, life gets better. These 5 core... Oh, I heard a few woohoos. That's nice. It's always nice to woohoo on a Sunday morning, isn't it? These 5 principles guide us in living into our vision statement, which is on the screen, and I invite you to say it together with me. Centered in God, we co-create a world that works for all, and so it is.
I'm listening to the music of the Holy Spirit. Oh, what a song God is singing. I will listen all day long. I will listen all day long. Oh yeah, hey, yeah. Oh yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Hallelujah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Hallelujah. Oh, yeah, hey, yeah. Hallelujah.
And now a reading from the Daily Word. Today's daily word is guidance. I will read the affirmation and then invite you to read it with me. I seek, trust, and follow my guidance. Together. I seek, trust, and follow my guidance. Seeking divine guidance means tuning out information and opinions and turning inward. Then, with an open heart and quiet mind, I can better feel the nudge of my intuition, my inner voice. I receive divine guidance much in the way flowers in a field soak up sunshine. Just as following the sun is innate for them, I have the instinct to trust my inner knowing. Even if my guidance surprises me, I trust it to lead me on the path to my highest good. I follow where I feel called to go. I heed the still small voice within and pay particular attention to the serendipitous circumstances I find along the way. I seek, trust, and follow my guidance. As I do, I deepen my relationship with God, knowing wherever I go, I do not travel alone. The scripture reading is from Isaiah chapter 58. The Lord will guide you continually.
I love you, Lord, for your mercy never fails me. All my days have been held in your hand. From the moment I wake up till I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I've been able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire and darkest nights. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend, and I live in the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I've been able, I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. I've my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything, yeah. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. Yes, I will sing of the goodness of God. Oh yeah, I will sing, I will sing, I will sing of the goodness, I will sing of the goodness of God.
Yes, yes, yes. The sweet serenity of the goodness, the stillness, the oneness of God. Thank you, Margot. Thank you, Russell. Thank you, Ronnie. That was amazing. Would you give them another round of applause? Good morning.
Good morning.
Today is our spiritual Q&A service. So if you have a question, we're going to go into a short meditation process here so you can discern and just allow yourself to open up. And then you can write it on the card. If you received a card, you can text it to us. If you don't have a phone and would like a card, please raise your hand, and I'll bring one to you now. We're all good. Paul has an extra one there. Looks like everyone's good. So let's just take a moment then. Let's just take a moment to turn within. We'll come get your questions in a moment. Oh, thank you, Paul. As we turn within, to open ourselves to that still small voice within us, to that grace, that magnificence, that inner presence that is your true identity, letting go of any thoughts or fears or frustrations, letting go of any emotions that may be bubbling up, and just allowing ourselves to be in this moment. And as you breathe into this present moment, just allow whatever question is inside of you to emerge. Anything that has been nagging at you, anything that's been tugging at you, or just allowing Spirit to speak through you, as we are divine individuals. And in this human experience, we sometimes forget that we're divine individuals. And so we allow that inner wisdom to come forward now. And as you do, write your question on the card or text it to us, and we will answer them. And here's the wonderful thing. I didn't plan on how we're going to get your questions up to the stage. I know that Spirit's going to take care of that for us, right? Come on up. Paul, oh, thank you, Paul. See? Thank you very much, Tracy.
While the questions are coming up, I might introduce one that I got on text, which I thought was an interesting question. And the question is, how do we stop from thinking the negative thoughts?
That's a whole talk.
Joe just said, that's a whole talk. We could have a whole series on that.
You go first.
Well, great. So I had the advantage of having to think about this for a moment because I got the text a while ago. And I actually think that it's in our 5 principles that we talk about every Sunday. The 5th principle, does anyone remember what the 5th principle is? Practice, yes, that's right. 5th principle is practice. You know, I think all of us would love to have that off switch when our mind goes down a negative path and thinking about all sorts of negative outcomes, but it happens to all of us. And it truly is through daily practice. When we practice thinking about the affirmative and positive things in our life, when we think about all the ways in which we're grateful, when we take a moment to connect to that inner part of us, that spiritual abundance, infinite essence that John described that is inside of each one of us, which is, by the way, our second principle. It is that daily practice. And that daily practice is like going to the gym. And what happens when you go to the gym? You get stronger. And when you get stronger, that is what enables you, in those moments when your mind is going down that difficult path, to pull back and actually change in a different direction.
Do you want to add anything, Joe?
And whoever had that question, kudos to you, first of all, to notice that you do have the negative thoughts, because that's the first thing. I remember this from Mary Morrissey, is to notice what you're noticing. Because the moment you notice that negative thought, you're already there. And then there's that, I heard this from Viktor Frankl, that between a stimulus and a response is a pause. And at that moment that we realize, oh, negative thought, then I have a choice what will my next thought will be. Is it to continue down that negative path, or what is the flip side of that negative thought? It could be whether it's like I'm not enough, to, you know what, I am enough, to kind of that switch. And it's that switching that's what flips the switch right then and there, for me at least.
And I'll just add to that, sometimes it can be difficult. Anybody experience that as difficult? Turn on the news, and there's your stimulus. There's all kinds of stimulus around us. And so the realization is, I'll bring a little brain science into this, the negative thinking is wired into us, because as Dr. Doty talked about, we're wired for that. And so to create that new neural pathway, when we find it there, is the willingness to practice. The willingness to say, okay, I'm going to look at this from a new perspective. And just that willingness will give you the energy to move through it so that you can start building that new neural pathway. And having that willingness with a positive attitude, because so often we shame ourselves. Oh, there I go again. And that just reinforces the negative neural pathway. And so, it's like, instead it's, hey, here I am. I caught it. Now I have a willingness to go in a different direction. So we really didn't talk about how we're going to do this, but I figure we'll just run through them. I'll read one and then we'll pass them along. Are there any plans to restart the children's program? How are we doing budget-wise? Do we have a comfortable emergency fund? I'll go backwards in that. Do you want to address that actually as a board trustee? Or? Okay, so going backwards, we have a very comfortable emergency fund. Our current cash basis is right around $100,000, which is in the green zone, right? We would love for it to be higher. When it's higher than that, then we can start looking at adding new budgetary items like a youth program. The youth program is very high on our list, and the question is, when can we get to a point where we can have a sustainable youth program? And so that's how we're moving through in that. And on budget, we're right on track on budget, maybe a little ahead of our budget at this point in time. And I think the board will have more opportunities to talk about that in the coming year. Anybody else want to add anything to that one? I don't understand praying for something versus affirming. Thank you.
Perfect question. Praying for something versus affirming something. Part of the prayer chaplain is that, let's say when someone comes to us and what we are hearing is healing, that they need some sort of healing. Instead of saying that, oh God, Father God, please heal so-and-so from X, Y, and Z, we actually say more something like, we affirm already that they're already whole, that they're already well, and And along with that, for me, sometimes is that knowing, let's say if they're going to go for like a surgery or some sort, that the surgery, that every hand that touches the person is a healing hand. Like it's already affirming that it's already done, it's already completed. And that's why at the end of it, if you hear any of the prayer chaplain who will pray with you would say that I release the outcome. Because we already know that in source, with source, and as source, it's done. It's complete. And if you have any chance to pray with a prayer chaplain, they're not going to go up to you and say, what happened? Because we already know, we already released it. Knowing that that is already taken care of. Because God has already taken care of that concern or request. And that's why we say we release this outcome. And we say, thank you, God. Because it's done. Even before we even say it, even before we even say that need, it's done. It's complete. So that's, I think, to me, the difference between asking for it and affirming that we already know, done. And it has a check mark already. I don't even have, and often, I don't even need the details. Often, I would just probably just say even the word. That's one practice that we do with the prayer chaplain. Is like, what word do you have? And they say healing. And I'm like, okay, source, healing. Done. Simple. Because God knows the details. I don't need to know. We don't need to know. Is that?
Do you want to say anything?
I love that, Joe. And I guess one kind of small wrinkle on that I might add is that, for at least in my mind, when I think of affirming, I think about affirming someone's wholeness and completeness. I'm going to keep coming back to the 5 principles, I guess, today, because I want to go back to that. The second principle that says, I am, that God is not some power out there in the universe, that God is here inside of me. And the affirmation is to remember that for myself and for the other, for the person for whom I may be praying. That doesn't mean that there aren't things going on in life. Sickness, difficulties, challenges in life, they still exist. And yet, even in the midst of that, you are whole, the other person is whole. They have that divine essence. And so for me, the affirmation is remembering that and connecting with that.
And I'll just add a little dimension to that. Remember, we're talking about spiritual wholeness. We're talking about that divine presence within us, even though our life may not seem whole to us. Right? And so we're not praying for something that we lack, because that's coming from a consciousness of, I don't have it, I'm lacking it, I'm not it. But rather we're praying from the consciousness of I am, that principle that Rusty was just talking about. And so we hold that I am consciousness and open ourselves up to the divine flow of life, leading me to my higher good. Go ahead.
I've got another question. This is a fun one. This question is, how do I balance a vision or a desire to co-create a world that works for all with the challenges that show up in daily life, without holding resentment or frustration or anger or judgment against this thing that happened in my life when I've got a vision for something else?
I'll start. Stuff happens. Anybody have any stuff happen in the last week? Stuff happens. Now, our reaction to the stuff creates our sense of disease, our sense of unease, our sense of suffering. Our reaction to the stuff within us creates that sense of frustration or fear or anxiety. So even if something's happening out there, when we can come to it from that sense of, okay, I'm spiritually whole, I'm going to see where I can grow. If it's triggering me, there's some belief that I have within me that it's pushing. It's my button that's getting pushed. And we know that's true because the same person across the aisle can say something similar or the same thing, and we don't care. Have you ever experienced that? But when it's somebody who's really close to you, then we care. Yes? Are you with me so far? So the stimulus isn't the issue. The outside conditions isn't the issue. They're just the situation that we are here to move through and to grow from and to find solutions for and to move in that direction with a positive attitude, with faith, with understanding that I don't know the answer sometimes, but I know that if I move forward with that higher self firmly anchored in me, I will find my path through it.
Has anyone ever responded out of anger besides me? Just once. Okay, good for you. Good for you.
Are you talking about today?
Yeah, in the last 5 minutes. Well, I think for me, part of this idea is to start to pay attention. Joe mentioned earlier, notice what you're noticing. And if you can notice that you're angry, that might not be the best time to make a decision. Because you're not going to be coming from your highest and best self. And if you can separate from the moment, from the emotion, and find a moment of peace and calm, that is the time to discern what your next best action might be. And so, this also goes back to this idea of prayer and meditation, our third principle. Because when we practice that, that is a way of letting go of some of the external things that are going on in the world, the stuff that's happening, as John said. And the prayer and meditation is a way to turn inward, to find that place of peace and calm inside. And that is your guidance. As the Daily Word talked about today, your guidance, your inner voice, that still small voice, that's where you hear it. You don't hear it when you're out there in the noise of the world being buffeted around by the winds and the waves of the storm of life. You hear it when you turn inward.
And speaking of turning inward, one of the things that I learned actually, it's called Rain. It's by Tara Brach. I know, Francis, you love this one because it's exactly what Reverend John and Rusty's talking about. The first R means to recognize, is to recognize that anger, that irritation, that, what else, frustration or worry. It could be anything, and acknowledging that, I feel angry. I feel frustrated. And then the I stands for to investigate what that is. It's like, what is this anger all about? Like what Reverend John is saying, quantum living is my biggest one. My phase 3 is usually my biggest I to look into what is that about? What wound is it touching? Is it really the outside that's happening now, or is it actually more from a core wound that I have? And then N is about nourishing what that needs. What does that anger actually need? What does that fear actually need? And so instead of me looking on the outside to meet that need, is to go within and say, maybe I just need to rest, or maybe I just need more compassion for myself, or whatever that may be. So then I'm also, if I can't get to the worksheet at that moment, that's one thing that I usually do, is to pay attention to where am I feeling that in the body specifically. Like mine is the jaw, the shoulders, the chest. It's like those are the top 3 places for me. I'm like, something's happening here. There's anger going, and paying attention to that. That is like what Rusty was talking about. Meditation and prayer comes in a more practical way, I would say.
So,
Sorry, recognize.
So it's recognize, acknowledge. Acknowledge, you can say to that anger, I see you, or I feel you, or I hear you. So it's kind of like validating yourself. I is to investigate. N is to nourish or nurture. I forgot which of those two, but basically it boils down to the need.
So Joe, you mentioned the quantum living process, and it's a class that's coming up on Tuesdays, beginning July 10th, I think. Yeah, July 10th, I think. There'll be an announcement. So both of you have taken it. In one sentence, can you describe the impact on your life?
Awesome.
Word. Life-changing.
Thank you very much. Now, since we're in the middle of our service, and you're probably all wondering, who are these jokers up here? Why don't we introduce ourselves? I'm Reverend John Riley. I'm the senior minister here at Unity Palo Alto.
I'm Rusty Gaillard, part of the platform team, occasional guest speaker here at Unity, and a student of all things Unity and the principles.
And on the Board of Trustees.
And also on the Board of Trustees. Thank you.
I am Joe Angeles. I am a licensed Unity teacher candidate, part of the platform team, and I'm the prayer chaplain coordinator trainer.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead. While John's pulling up the next question, I just did want to say a little bit more about quantum living, which is, I actually took the class twice, and I didn't realize it when I signed up the second time, because the name changed in the middle. But I took it the first time when I first came to Unity. And when I first came to Unity, I figured I was a pretty spiritually evolved person, and I took the class. I'm like, I know all this stuff. And I went through the class, and it was interesting. And then about 5 years later, just recently, earlier this year, I took it a second time. And I said, oh my goodness, I knew nothing the first time I took the class. But I took it way more seriously the second time, and I learned so much more. It really is a wonderful class, because it not just is some learning, there's some learning there, both kind of intellectual but also personal learning, but it's also experiential, because it's a practice that you take home with you. You don't just sit in the classroom and do it, you take it home with you, and then you have the opportunity to discuss that and learn from it when you show up back into the class sessions. So just to put a little bit of a underline on my simple one-word response earlier, I did want to just say a little bit more about the quantum living class and encourage you, if you haven't tried it, to check it out.
Thanks, Rusty. That was the asterisk, the footnote. It was awesome. So the question is, do I have to turn my brain off to meditate?
Believe it or not, you can't, there is a book, it's called How God Changes the Brain. In meditation, God is actually changing the brain, even if you don't even bring up the name. Even just thinking about the name God is already changing the brain. So in meditation, do I need to turn off the brain? Believe it or not, brain is already working. I don't quite know how to change it. I think it's more giving it direction, I would say. For me, the best way to make that brain not so monkey-mindish is to actually give it focus for that meditation. Usually, the easiest for me is the breath. And wherever I feel the breath, the easiest is in my tummy. So I kind of give the brain a job to do, because if I don't give my brain a job during meditation, I'll be thinking about 10 million things and I won't have a single thought. And that's just, I just gotta admit that brain is already working, and I just gotta give it focus. And there are days that I also give it a word. I've learned a recent practice lately, which is called centering prayer, where you come up with your word for God, for the divine. It could be divine love, God, source, and you put it in your heart. So, and then I just focus on that. It kind of connects both the mind and the body at the same time. So then you have that more mind, body, and spirit connection from my experience.
Joe, quick SDS question.
Oh boy.
Does God do anything?
God is already us.
So God doesn't change your mind. You do when you practice. When you get aligned with spirit, when you get aligned with infinite intelligence, your brain then gets aligned.
And can I just say, practice is in those moments when you notice, oh, I'm thinking about dinner, or I'm thinking about this other thing. Practice is that moment when you recognize it and you come back to your breath or to the word or whatever it is that Joe is saying. So you never turn your brain off. That's impossible until the end, and none of us is looking forward to that very quickly. So meditation, if you notice yourself thinking about something, you're not doing it wrong, you're doing it right. Because it's in the noticing and in the willingness to come back to the breath. That is what meditation is.
Beautiful. Any more texts? You want me to go over here? Will there be a fall book study program? Yeah. Will there? Got any suggestions? A book. Yeah, so I've actually, we've been talking about small group projects, and I think we will. And I have a couple of books that I'm thinking about. And we're going to do it a little differently, though, this year. So everyone take a nice deep breath. Oh, good Lord. Yeah, sorry, Paul. We'll talk about that later. So the answer, I think, is yes. Anybody else want to comment on that? Go ahead.
We do have a question here about staying present with loss and navigating the process of grief.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Well, how do you stay present with loss?
And grief. Well, it's really, I'm not quite sure what the question is asking. How do I stay present with loss and grief? I think it's a
Present.
Thank you, Siri. I do know how to spell present.
Present.
Shh, shh.
Present.
John's phone is talking to us.
So, first off, I think it is important to be present to grief. It's important to acknowledge and be present to it. Now, if you're asking, how do I stay present in what we were talking about and returning to the breath, the key is to not push away grief. It's to just be present and notice it and allow it to be. The real challenge that we have is that when we try to push it away, when we try to suppress it, or when we dive into the story about the grief, and the story about the grief ignites the suffering within us. So if you can eliminate the story about it and just be present to it and acknowledge that I'm grieving, and we will all have opportunities to grieve in life. That's part of this experience. We'll all have opportunities to be present to it and just allow it to be. And if you're having any difficulties with the fuel, the story, adding fuel to it, then there are classes and opportunities and books and forgiveness practices that we do to help us move through it more easily and gracefully. You guys want to say anything about it? Maybe radical forgiveness?
Like John was saying about grief, when grief comes to mind, like that word comes to mind, like as a prayer chaplain, the word that comes to me is holding space, is to allow yourself be in that space of grief. And like John is saying, there are like stages of grief, actually not just 5, there are 10, and to stay present to them. And one thing I also learned about grief is that any change can also be a feeling of grief and loss, and to recognize that I do feel sad. I do feel that sadness, and I do feel that it could be anger, it could be depression, it could be denial, it could be all of that, and just to stay present to them. And what John was saying about radical forgiveness, because I did this with Reverend Sheila Gautreaux with Unity of Houston, is you have, they're also like quantum living, where you have worksheets and you actually go through like what the grievance is, what is it that I'm upset about in that situation, and then there's like series of questions that you answer. And the whole idea of radical forgiveness is, as opposed to a traditional forgiveness, is that it comes that this, whatever that happened, that upsetting situation that happened, happens for a reason, for our spiritual growth. That somehow we allow that to happen so our soul can learn what the lesson is. So that's why at the end of a radical forgiveness worksheet, that we are even grateful to that person or that situation. Not just a person, it could be a situation. Even, let's say, I remember she was having us do one for COVID even, and like being grateful for that, and what is it about it that we are grateful for. at the end of it. And at the end of it, also a note to ourselves on how can we take care of ourselves at the end of it. So that's the gist of radical forgiveness.
I'll just add in there, it's very difficult to be grateful in my mind for something, for COVID, for all the crazy people, in my opinion, in the world. But I can be grateful in it. And I can be grateful in it because it's leading me to something greater. And I can find good in it. So there's how I distinguish between those two words. Question. So we're getting pretty close to our time. What are we doing to educate our kids about unity principles? This kind of goes along to our, the idea of our youth program. Maybe a 20-minute lesson online. Well, I don't know about you, but my kids are not going to sit through a 20-minute lesson online. I think the best way to engage kids is to engage kids. We need to have them in a place where they want to be, where they can connect with each other, where they can talk about ideas with each other and get that interaction. Connection is so important, especially at younger ages. So I think it's really important for us not to do something halfway. I think it's really because it won't solve the problem, it won't necessarily help, and it may, placate our adult egos, but I think it's really important for us to do something that's really going to be impactful for the kids. We have the resources to be able to do it right. So there's my thoughts on that one. How do I pray for the removal of evil people on our planet? I'm going to skip the examples.
One of the things I find is a kind of it's one of those holes in the ground that is covered up with some reeds and some brush, so you don't really see it. And you're walking along, and all of a sudden you step in the hole, and you fall, and you twist your ankle or something. One of those traps for me is wanting to change the world, wanting to change what is. When I'm resisting the person who cut me off on the highway, or the person who's taking a long time checking out at the grocery store, or the person who, whatever, it doesn't matter. Even at a global scale, there's all sorts of examples we can talk about. But it's in the resistance of those things that I find that I twist my ankle. And I have to keep coming back to this sense that there is something bigger than me going on in this world. There is something that is a part of me, that is also bigger than each one of us, and is that one power, that one presence active in the universe. And I can affirm that power that is active in the universe is present in each one of us to a greater or lesser degree, but it is there. And so my affirmation is to recognize that and hold that in myself, and to amplify it, and to recognize it and hold it in each person that I encounter every day. And I do not do that consistently. I don't think any of us does, right? But that is my practice, to recognize that each person that I encounter on a daily basis is an expression of the divine. And can I see that in them?
Mine, so-called evil people. I remember doing one at least radical forgiveness for one of them, one of our world leaders. I did one because I was so upset, and I said, God, I gotta get this out of my system. So my go-to was a radical forgiveness worksheet, and then as I dig deeper, actually for me, this is also where quantum living comes in. Usually when I perceive people evil, and the word evil in unity simply means negation or error thinking. So what is that error thinking in my own mind that needs healing? Because that means there's a wound that they're touching there for me. So when I did that, I'm like, oh, this reminds me of someone in my past that's like triggering this button right now. And so it's an opportunity when that person comes to help me to have the healing that I need from whatever it is that Rusty was talking about that I am resisting at that moment. And then that kind of helps me like what John said, to be grateful in that moment, to like, thank you for even teaching me what that is, to heal what that is. And I remember from the eye of the storm to, because I know it's difficult to pray right then and there, yeah, you're whole, you're welcome, you're worthy. That's tough for me to do unless I deal with me first, and I deal with that wound first, deal with that anger first, I think. And then at that moment, then I could say, okay, thank you for bringing that healing for whatever that wound is. And then, sending them that, then from that place, I can then do the love and the worthy and the welcome kind of thing, because I know I've made my peace.
And I'll just add the idea, if you understand, if you agree with Unity's first principle, you don't have to, but if you agree with Unity's first principle, that there's only one presence and one power active in our lives and in all the universe, and if you agree with our second principle, you're it. There is no separation. That's the idea of oneness. We are one. And anything I do to you, I do to me. And from a practical perspective, if we're walking around angry at those evil people out in the world, who's suffering? Me. I'm holding that anger. I'm creating my own sense of disorder and disease within me. And then that's my world then. So it's really coming back to one thing, and that's love. And love is a hard word for us, because it doesn't mean I have to like you or agree with you. But if I hold love, then I can look at somebody who I think is acting out of, in a way that we might describe as evil, and have compassion, knowing that there's something missing in this person's life, that there's something that this person can't get. And so the only thing that I can do is to hold them in light, in love, the harmonizing energy of spirit, and hold them in my consciousness so that I create that within myself. And so that I can share that with the world. And it's something that we have to do with even those people that just annoy us, because those are more active in our lives. Does anybody, have more people who just annoy you in your life that you can actually interact with than, the person that's across the world or across the city or on the news? So can we practice gently, easily with each other and just know that we're one? And as a spiritual community, we spread that teaching and that understanding to people just by having that love in our heart for them, whether we like them or agree with them or want them to change. Just hold them in that space of knowing that they are one with the infinite intelligence, period, and that's it. We don't have to do anything else. There's my 18 cents. Do we have any more text questions? Maybe one more? No. So I think I got all of these actually. This is why I bring more people on the stage, because if it was me, we'd get through 2 questions, and I'd just be, going on and on and on about those 2 questions. Well, the last one is a statement of gratitude, so I'll hold that for us. It's thanks for being here with your wisdom, spirit, and humor. I appreciate you. And I'm sure this person includes all of us on stage and all of you out there in the sanctuary. So let's take a moment to remind ourselves of this weekend, of this experience here in July. Independence Day is on Tuesday. And what I wanted to do is just take a moment to read the daily word for Tuesday, to ground ourselves in freedom, to ground ourselves in spiritual freedom, to ground ourselves in the ability to believe what you believe and to question what you believe. We don't require you to believe any of this stuff that we've been talking about. There's no requirement for that. Here are some things that we found that work. And if you apply them in your life, I think you might find they work for you too. And if they don't, like Rusty took the quantum living process and said, well, that was nice, and 5 years later, he got a new meaning out of it. I read some of our books over and over again, and each time there's a new meaning. So just allow it to be. The daily word on Tuesday is freedom. And the affirmation, living as the divine being I am, is the sweetest freedom. Living as the divine being I am is the sweetest freedom. Can you get a sense of that in yourself? I'm going to repeat it one more time and then ask you to affirm it with me. Living as the divine being I am is the sweetest freedom. Together? Living as the divine being I am is the sweetest freedom. Today, I celebrate my spiritual freedom. The past has no power over me, and the future is mine to co-create with God. I let go of all that holds me back from living a full and abundant life. This is a new beginning. My prayers affirm my worth and my freedom. I release thoughts and beliefs that bind me. Centered in God, I choose how I will meet life's circumstances. I am freed from seeking the approval or acceptance of others. I am free to be myself. My spiritual self is as infinite as the sky. Like an eagle, I soar through the experience of consciousness. I have the power to change my thinking, release my limitations, and rise above the clouds of circumstances. I am gloriously free. And from Galatians chapter 5, verse 1, the freedom Christ has set free, the freedom Christ has set us free. Stand firm, therefore, and do not submit again to the yoke of slavery. For living as the divine being I am is the sweetest freedom. So as we take that into our time of meditation and affirmative prayer, feel your breath. Close your eyes if that feels comfortable, or soften your gaze, but feel that breath, the freedom of your breath. Feel Spirit breathing you. As you breathe out, you release all stress and strain. Release all confusion, all doubt. Release any tension. As you breathe in, you draw upon divine love, filling your heart with love, the harmonizing energy of Spirit as it courses through your being, mind, body, soul. Divine love now flows through every cell in your body, harmonizing you. Each cell knows its perfect expression. As we breathe in, we draw upon that infinite intelligence, divine wisdom. We open our mind to guidance, to inspiration. And we have the authority to bring that forward, to create that in our lives. Breathing in, we know our oneness with Spirit, our oneness with infinite intelligence, source, life, love, and wisdom. And so we focus on our breath. We allow our thoughts to still, our emotions to still, our body to still, as we breathe into the stillness of the silence. With the warmth of Spirit within us, moving in, through, and as us, we affirm, I am one with the infinite source of life, love, and wisdom. Living as the divine being I am is the sweetest freedom. I am spiritually whole, I'm spiritually abundant. I am spiritually free. I am one with the allness of life. Affirming that, I express that into my world. And my world gets better and better and better as I learn to express it every moment of the day. Living as the divine being I am is the sweetest freedom. And so I give thanks. Thanks for this time together. I spread this gratitude to everyone in the room. We surround our prayer chest, every prayer that has come in online and in person, with our love. We surround our world, national, state, and local leaders with the same love, compassion, and kindness. And in this truth, we celebrate by singing the Alleluia. And with a nice, deep, cleansing breath, we bring our attention back to this time and space, to this experience of life, and just allow that love to lead your way. Unity Palo Alto is here to help you discover that spiritual magnificence, the I am, that divine nature that is your true self, and to express it into the world. Our purpose statement is that we are here to transform lives and inspire people to make a positive difference in the world. And you are that positive difference every day. I'd like to ask our prayer chaplains to please stand. Who are serving today, if you are in any need of prayer today after the service, Sarah Ann and Karen will be happy to sit with you, to lovingly listen in confidence, to hold sacred space, and to affirmatively pray with you after the service. And we thank you for your service to our spiritual community for this. There are so many ways in which you can support our purpose, our mission of being this experience in life, of creating this higher consciousness in the world. There are many ways in which you can support us. If you're in the sanctuary and you'd like to make a donation, there's a silver box in the back of the sanctuary that says love offerings. You can place your love offering in there. You can make a donation online or put us in your will, or however you want to do it. But however you give to life, however you give to unity, give with love. For when we give with love, we receive love. Love becomes our life. And so with that love in our heart, I invite you to say our love offering statement with me. It is on the screen. Together, divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. And so it is.
Hari Om, dear Lord, Satnam, holy name. When I call on the light within, I go. Hari Om, dear Lord, Satnam, holy name. When I call on the light within, I go.
a blessing to spend this time together with beautiful music, some interesting topics of conversation, community. It's just wonderful to be here with you all. I hope you all share that same sense of connection. And remember that it doesn't end here on Sunday morning. There are several things I want to share with you that are coming up on the Unity calendar. The first of which is next Sunday is Dr. Reverend Paul Hasselbeck will be here speaking. One of the things... Thank you. One of the things I appreciate about Unity is the opportunity to listen to the same type of message from different perspectives. Hopefully you got a little bit of that this morning, but certainly Dr. Paul Hasselbeck will be sharing his unique perspective on some of these same Unity principles we talk about regularly. So next Sunday, be here in person, on Zoom. You are all welcome. Also coming up is... Hopefully Felix is going to give me the next slide because I forgot what the next thing. Oh, I know what it is. It's our monthly prayer service. On the second Sunday of every month, that is next Sunday. Casey Wicker leads that, and it is shortly after the service on Zoom at 11:15. You are all welcome for that. Next item, boy, my memory is not working very well for me this morning. Yes, the quantum living class. We talked about that earlier. I shared my experience with it. I think it's a wonderful class. It's on Tuesdays, not starting this Tuesday because this Tuesday is the 4th of July. It starts next Tuesday on the 11th of July, and it's in the evenings, and it's a hybrid class. You can be here in person, you can be on Zoom. You are all welcome. More information on the website. And then I also want to share that we are in the season of pickup parties, so we have that going on. To highlight one of the parties, we're not going to go through the whole list because there's a bunch of them, but one of them that is coming up is next Saturday evening. There's a dinner party at the Green Elephant, which is just down the road here. It's about a 2-minute drive from where we are right now. Should be a lot of fun. You can get tickets for that and all of the other parties on the website, unitypaloalto.org/party, or if you've been texting, just text the word party into the same number you were sending your questions, and you'll get the information back. You can find out about all this stuff on our website, unitypaloalto.org/activities, and also on social media. We're happy to welcome you and hope you participate and connect in all of these other ways. It's the first Sunday of the month, and on the first Sunday of the month, we welcome all of those people with a July birthday. So if you have a July birthday, would you stand and allow us to sing a happy birthday to you? And you can stay standing, everyone. Please join them as we sing our song of peace together.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be with God.
And now our prayer for protection. Together, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Love and blessings, everyone. Have a wonderful 4th of July. Happy Sunday.